Hello, and welcome to the first ever episode of a currently unnamed Disney Lorcana podcast. I'm Dave Attackfortwo Solberg, and I'm joined by my friend Scott Bumi Jr. Alshanski. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining me. So we were just pretty interested in talking Disney Lorcana with Set 7 just around the corner, and this is a good avenue to do it. Before we get started, I'd like to give some shout outs first to our executive producer Josh, who without this would not be possible because Boomy and I both don't know how to record ourselves.
Yeah, we have no idea how to make a video.
Also to our friend Dylan and his wife on the birth of their daughter, and lastly to anyone who listens to this, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by and hearing what we have to say about Disney Princess cards.
Yeah. All right. So set 7, Archazia's Island, is 2 weeks away. All the cards have been revealed at this point. We are recording on February 23rd, Sunday night. Boomy, your first impressions?
My first impressions are, I mean, as you'd expect, as more sets are released, a lot of the cards seem to be pack filler. Some of the cards seem to be very, very good. Uh, some of the colors seem to have not very many good cards at all. Um, but I think there are a lot of creative people in the community, so hopefully it won't just be blue decks all around. But my first impressions are a little more on the doomer side, I would say.
Yeah. Have you played with any of the cards at all?
I have barely played Lorcana since Continentals. We are in the middle of a set three tournament in our Discord, and I played 2 rounds of that, and I think that's the extent of the Lorcana I've played since Anaheim.
Gotcha.
What
So
about you? Have you?
I've played a fair bit, not a lot.
Okay.
Dabbled with a few new decks. I also have watched a lot more than I played, both in our Discord and externally to that with other people playtesting.
Mhm.
I do have perhaps a list of over and underperformers if you wanted to take a look at it
Yeah,
and talk
I
about a few
would
cards.
be happy to take a look at that one.
Let me
I have
pull.
watched I have watched people play. I've seen a few games, so there are a few cards that I would say are over or underperforming that I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, so I've got two underperformers.
Okay.
Sorry, this is not an underperformer.
No, that one is not
Gantu,
underperforming. Yeah.
the experienced enforcer, is an underperformer for me. Gantu is a 4 cost uninkable 2/4 quest for 1. When you play this character, characters can't exert to sing songs until the start of your next turn, and each player pays 2 more for actions that they play or items that they play without singing. Worth noting that both of those effects impact you.
Yes, sort of. Um, this is a card that is like extra copies of Pete, and it stops singing for a turn, but after that it doesn't interact with singers, so the singing player can go on about business as usual after he's been around for a turn cycle. Um, the tax is more for if you're going to pay or if you're going to play an action or song or item outright from your hand by paying ink for it, you have to pay the Gantu tax.
Yeah, I started very high on this card and have since gone down, mostly because the first times I played with and watched it was against control decks like Blue Steel and Ruby Sapphire Ramp, and the abilities were quite good. And then I came down on it because I played against aggressive Amber and Sapphire Steel decks where he was very poor.
Yeah.
Um, the biggest thing I'll note is that if you play the singer Ursula on turn 3, and you need to put an extra character in play to, say, hit a breakpoint with Strength of a Raging Fire, you can't play Gantu
Yeah,
because
it's
your
not going
Ursula
to work
can't
out well
sing.
for you. Yeah. So Gantu, I think is exactly what you don't want an uninkable card to be, which is a high-powered tech card, which is very good in some matchups and very bad in other matchups. If you need to fight for a board, like, and you have to play a 2/4, he's not going to challenge or really have much impact on the board. If you need to disrupt somebody's item plan, this card is very good. Um, Like this is the kind of card I think you play as a meta call and not really as just a card you'd want to play. If 60% of a room is going to be a Tamatoa deck, this is a card you might want to consider. But if you are expecting to play against any sort of aggro decks, I think you want to leave this one at home.
Yep. And then I've got one other underperformer, and this might be a hot take, but it is Sapphire Coil.
Okay.
And the reason I think it's an underperformer because I was quite vocal about this being the end of Lorcana and another Bucky situation,
hmm
and it's not that. It's okay.
That's good because I really dislike this card. So I haven't seen any gameplay with this card yet. But I know you have, and I'm happy to hear you say that it's underperforming and isn't very good.
Yeah, so I'll say that the feel bad situations of say a turn 2 Sapphire Coil, turn 3 Ink play Sisu, turn 4 Ink play Brawl, turn 5 Ink play another Sisu or Brawl, and then play Medusa certainly exist, and they
hmm
do feel quite Bucky like,
Uh-huh.
and that's pretty miserable. Um, but the reason I think it's kind of okay is that if you play Sapphire Coil and Tipo and Sail the Azurite Sea,
Okay.
and perhaps you're also playing a turn 2 battler like Queen of Hearts or the Red Gaston, the sequencing of having 12 to 15 inkable 2-drops in your deck is quite complicated. And for now, I don't think most people have figured out the lines.
Okay.
And when you want to play which of those cards, or even mulligan or ink those cards, it's quite complicated now. It's probably going to get worse as time goes on as people figure that out. But for now, it hasn't been all doom and gloom. And there is counterplay. There is item destruction. Benj is fine.
Yeah. Benja
The
Benja's a good one. Clarabelle's a good one.
the set one beast is back in
Set
a
One
lot of
Beast is back. Okay.
Sapphire Steel decks because it's also a singer for a whole new world.
Okay.
Um, so it's quite powerful. It's very frustrating to play against on the draw when your opponent has it, but it is not
Yeah.
um, the end of the world.
Yeah. I think I could see this being, right now I think we kind of have two mostly distinct versions of red blue, which is the sailor camp and then the DKP camp. And I don't think you can just slam this card into either of those. Um, so there might be another version of the deck where you forego some of the ramp in favor of just kind of playing on curve with Sapphire Coil and
Yep.
contesting the board. So I
Uh,
hope this card ends up being not relevant because I don't like playing against ice block, and this is like a double ice block, so
yep.
can leave it at that.
Any other card you want to talk about as an underperformer?
I have not played or watched enough Set 7 yet to really know what is underperforming, but I have seen a couple overperformers.
Oh, I have one
What?
more underperformer.
Okay.
This legendary Radigan.
Okay.
I tried to play it. I played 7 games with it. It was a 4 of in my deck. The deck was built around it, and it went to the inkwell every time.
So is that underperforming or performing as expected? Because I think a lot of us read this card and said I'll just pay two more for a half shark. Uh,
Um, well, I usually inked it to play a half shark or
okay.
a, a Tala or
Yeah.
something high rim.
You
Um,
you can put him in underperforming. I'll
I
put him
gave it
in.
my best effort, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out. He never made it into play in 7 games, and that was not for a lack of effort. It was just because I had better things to do on every single
Yeah.
turn.
That's that is disappointing because I do like Radigan and I think this is his best card yet, which still not quite good enough.
Yep. All right. So I might have set you up by thinking that maybe the blue cards uh, or the Sapphire decks might go away, but I have my first overperformer, and it's Bell,
Okay.
the Apprentice Inventor, a 3-cost 3/3 inkable quest for 1 with the ability What a Mess. During your turn, you may banish chosen item of yours to play this character for free. I had this rated as the second best card in the set, and I think it's better than that.
You think this eclipses the Happy Crab?
I have them one A and one B.
One
But
A and one B. Yeah.
um, so the obvious thing in like Sapphire Steel, this is a singer for the busted three cost songs, Let the Storm Rage On and Strength of a Raging Fire.
Hmm.
And Sapphire Steel has the benefit of playing 8 popsicles with the 4 popsicles and the 4 fortispheres. So it's a natural home for this. But even just the worst case of like being on the draw and playing this as a 1 cost 3/3
Hmm.
is like backbreaking against, say, Emerald Amethyst or Ruby Amethyst.
Yeah. Or even like Amber Steel on the draw. Like if they start Cinderella and then you start Belle, like they're not gonna they probably aren't going to play double one drop strength your guy, like they're out of cards at that point. Um, this card is just very good. Um, I know it's probably hard for the what we had thought was the second best card in the set to be overperforming, but the games I've watched with the blue steel wheel and the blue steel kiwis and the blue steel non-wheel decks, she wins the board on turn one, and you don't ever have to relinquish board control after that.
Yeah, I think she's also the death of the Ruby Flynn Rider.
That um, that makes sense. Your Flynn's just never going to trigger when there's a zero.
Yeah,
When
they
there's
were
a
they were cut immediately.
Yeah. Is
Any
he
more to say on
ever?
Bell?
Um, I don't have anything else to say about Belle. She's just a very good card, and she is probably going to be played alongside the busted songs for as long as they let us.
It's going to be a very expensive foil, I bet.
I I certainly expect that to be the case.
Yep. How about you talk to us about Pete Space Pirate?
Pete is a giant stat stick that has a very safe shift. And I know I've talked a bit about you don't ever want to shift onto like anything that costs more than one. Um, but shifting this onto Pete Games Referee is pretty free because Pete's triggered ability means they can't really interact with him. So he sets you up to shift on the next turn um, very nicely, and in a way that's very difficult to interact without something like Coil Sisu specifically, or or a very fast Medusa. But if they're Medusing Pete, like you're pretty okay with that. Um, this guy is just like a 5/5, quest for two. He's very aggressive. He's very aggressively statted, and it's very hard to clear him once he is in play and exerted because he's a 5/5 with resist +1. Your other pirates get resist +1, so your Smee's well, he's a cap. He's not even a captain for Smee, but
But he gives
he
me resist.
but he protects me anyway. Um, and we've seen games where like just a Pluto on curve is very backbreaking, and yeah, this guy doesn't have bodyguard, but he's just a much better card on the table than Pluto. Um, you know, I think a lot of decks are really going to have a difficult time dealing with this guy. Steel Song. I think this guy does to Steel Song what Gantu wants to do to Steel Song,
Yep.
which is just completely shuts up their songs forever. If by some chance the green steel deck has to play him, like Steel Song has a turn to get rid of him, and if they shift him onto their turn three Pete, they're just never going to sing songs for the rest of the game. Um, this card is just great.
Yeah, the reason I missed or under evaluated Pete at the beginning was because I mostly only play Ruby decks,
Okay,
where Pete is not at his best because
right.
Ruby decks have plenty of answers. Be prepared, Maui's, both Maui's. Um,
Yep. Yep.
so even just like a fox and a crab do fine.
Yeah.
But then I started dabbling with steel decks, and my opponents were playing Pete Space Pirates on turn 4, 5, or 6, and I could never kill them.
Yeah. It's very difficult to do. Um, you I think I don't know. I don't know if you have much recourse other than trying to race him, which isn't exactly easy because he will clear one of your characters every turn and not go away.
Yeah, almost certainly going to pick up a 2 for 1. Uh, because even like a Long Came Zeus is not enough to
Nope.
deal with a shifted Pete, because he comes in exerted and will have resist 1. Even in just a Pete on turn 6, you have exactly 1 turn to deal with it before it just becomes this recurring
Yeah.
problem, and very difficult to get off the table. And a
It
good battler at 5/5.
Yeah, if this card starts to see significant play, I think we're going to see an uptick of World's Greatest Criminal Mind as an
Yep.
answer because this guy has to be dealt with, um, or you're just going to lose.
Yep. I've got one more overperformer.
Okay,
If you'll give me the floor to talk about the Queen, Jealous Beauty.
have at it.
So I missed on this one. My initial reaction was that this was worse than, say, Hans from set 1, the Emerald
Hmm.
Hans. The
Hmm.
4 cost 3/3 quest for 3. So Hans
Yes.
always quest for 3, this quest for 1. Um, so I put this straight in the bulk bin, and never really intended to look at it. Our good friend Artabax correctly evaluated that this card is interesting, and now having played with it, I agree that it is.
Okay.
Um, First, it is a 4/3, so it is a good battler. There's a lot of times where, say, Ruby Amethyst on the draw would be looking to play Goat as its 4-drop,
Right.
because it just contests the board better than, say, a Rabbit would. And she does that. Also, her Exert ability, the choose 3 cards from an opponent's discard and put them on the bottom to gain 3 lore, and if there's a princess, gain 4,
Hmm.
is shockingly relevant against Lilos, against Tamatoas, the 6 cost and the 8 cost Tamatoas, and
Okay.
Sharks,
Yeah.
binning spells, particularly against, say, like the DKP version, which can almost trivially put 3 cards into the discard pile with like Develop Your Brain and So the Azurite Sea and How Far I'll Go. Just alone, like on their natural curve, they put 3
Yeah.
cards into the discard. And the other thing I missed was that, because we mentioned that Bell would kind of be the end of the Flynn Rider era, I swapped out the 2-drop spot for LeFou,
Okay.
because our friend Ray had said LeFou's pretty good, you should try it. And there were a lot of manners running around, so like Maui's and Crabs and Foxes needed to ready. So when I was building my Ruby Amethyst, I had a 58 card deck I liked, and I decided to give the Queen a try.
Okay.
And what I missed is that you can just randomly win the game from 11 or 14 lore.
Just with a activate LeFou activate.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And so there were games that for sure I was dead, never had a chance. So, my opponent has a shark on the table.
Hmm.
I will never be able to exert anything the rest of the game. They're going to very quickly win because of the shark's ability to gain 1 when you play an action. And say there's a Pirate's Life in the discard already. And I just played the Queen when I was at 14. My opponent wasn't able to remove it, and I just won the game from 14.
That seems pretty good. And you mentioned this is your highest win rate deck in your preliminary testing you've been doing?
That's kind of a joke,
Okay.
because it is my highest win rate deck, but that's also because we're testing with unrefined decks, and Ruby Amethyst is my wheelhouse, and I
And
quite like it. And I'm not saying the Queen is busted, but she
but
is definitely better than unplayable, which was where I originally put her. And so with that, I kind of wanted to go on a little tangent for a mini level up that I did because of the Queen.
okay.
And so I think she made me a better player in my ability to deck build and evaluate tools. And the reason I say that is because I learned that we should use the tools that Ravensburger gives us to deal with problems that we have.
Okay.
So it's quite easy to complain about the shark or about Tamatoa or about the new items that came out. And I imagine Ravensburger would say, well, you guys don't play, Benjas or Along Came Zeus's or Let It Go's or whatever answer those cards as often as you should. And the tools are available to you, and you should just try them. So how often, in Lorcana discourse, how often have you heard the saying, "I wish they would Ravensburger, we wish they would print inkable sideboard cards"?
Um, I think that is something that I say frequently. So a lot.
Yes, me too. Guess what the queen is?
She looks like an inkable sideboard card.
She is. And she's also an inkable sideboard card that randomly wins you the game and is fine on the draw.
Yeah. Yeah, reminiscent of graveyard interactions that you would put in your sideboard for if you were playing Magic.
Yeah. So to sum up, right? I think I personally had dismissed this card because I thought she was bad. And it wasn't until a collection of the community around me said, maybe you should consider it, that I did. And then it instantly popped off the pages like something quite valuable. So I had previously rated her like a D.
Okay.
And now I would say that she's probably like a C plus B minus, which is good enough to get it into the deck sometimes.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Like if you're struggling to interact with decks that have powerful cards that pull cards back from the discard, you know, like you said, you have tools. And I know I'm guilty of this too. I am a big fan of Kita from set 3, the big Kita.
Yep.
And a lot of people tell me, "Oh, you shouldn't play her. She's bad against red decks. She's bad against red blue." And my response to them is always, I just put her into the inkwell.
Right.
Where, where with this card, same thing. She's going to win you. She'll probably win you some matchups. And where she's bad, you can just put her into the inkwell.
Yeah. And very scary in a resource like game where, instead of your Ruby Sapphire player having, their high rims and you have your rabbits and you're playing a resource rich game, when both players are kind of thin and you top deck this, it requires a very immediate answer.
Yeah.
And the other thing she does that I missed is that she can sing and quest in the same turn for 3.
With LeFou.
With LeFou, again, that's the only ready effect that I'm currently playing in my deck because it's useful with Maui and the crabs and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the only good one in Ruby.
Yep. All right.
All right.
Any other overperformers that you wanted to talk about? I think I got them all in.
I was watching Amber Emerald versus Blue Steel Classic, and Big Tramp looked really, really strong.
This one.
That one right there. I saw the Amber Emerald player play him for 1 ink, draw 7 cards, discard 7 cards. Yes, you have to make the decision, what are the 2 best cards in your hand. If you're a good Lorcana player, you'll be able to figure that out. And he's just a 2/6. Blue Steel couldn't interact with him at all. And one of the cards that got kept was Rapunzel. Tramp rumbled in, drew 3 cards. It was pretty cool to watch. This card I think is going to be very good. If there's a playable deck in this color combination, it's going to have 4 of these guys.
Yeah, another card that on the surface probably doesn't read as good as it actually is.
Yeah, and this is a card that, if you're playing against a Sisu deck, you can just put them right into the inkwell.
Yep, I agree. All right.
All right.
Shall we jump into? I will stop sharing for now. All right. I've got a little brief news section for you. I'm going to give you the headlines, okay?
Okay.
We're not going to go deep on any of them. Just want to get some thoughts. The first of which...
before we continue, this you messaged me earlier and you say, I'll respond, pardon the interruption, right?
Kind of, yeah. We're going to go quick. We're not going to...
I was saving to right now to reveal to you that I don't know what that is.
It's a sports show with 2 old guys that are talking.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
That's funny. All right. The first one. Rackham, the French player, uh, with the controversy down in Melbourne, was suspended for 6 months and is now playing Pokemon. Thoughts?
Um, I don't expect him to be a paragon of the Pokemon community like he wasn't for the Lorcana community.
Yeah, same. The second one, the guys from Team Labyrinth have moved to a new and separate entity called Maelstrom. Do you know what a Maelstrom is?
Maelstrom is a big storm.
Nice. I don't know what a Maelstrom is.
Um,
And then lastly, are you familiar with the Set 7 Bagheera controversy?
nope.
All right. Well, let me share my screen again so I can tell you about that.
All right.
I can...
Oh, is this that he is the wrong cat type?
Yes.
Yep. I
The
saw
big
that on
cat
Reddit.
experts have informed us, the
Mhm.
Lorcana community, that Bagheera, the
Not actually
guardian
Jaguar.
jaguar, is actually a Black Panther.
So, um, I actually read a little deeper into this, and a panther is just a generic name for a big cat that is a jaguar or whatever the Asian version of a jaguar is that has excess melanin and is all black. So they could have
Interesting.
just said he was a panther and they would have got it right. But a jaguar is native to the Americas, and whatever he actually is escaping me right now. Now I'm not going to look it up.
Do you think Ravensburger should fix this for the Eastern printing?
Um, I think they should fix it for future printings. Did they do that with the Ursula Deceiver of All? Do you know?
Yes, it was originally incorrect story born versus Dreamborn. I don't know which one's actually correct, but it was misprinted
Yeah,
and then printed
and then
correctly.
they corrected it, right? Maybe
Yes.
maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll errata this guy to have the correct cat type, or maybe this is a jaguar that found himself in India somehow, and Ravensburger knows their big cats.
All right, lore expert. Would a Bagheera Guardian Black Panther act in a protective and defensive way?
Yeah, he fights tigers to save a human child.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
That's it
that's a pretty flavorful fitting card, I'd say.
that's it for the news talk. It was it was a slow week.
It was a little bit of a slow week, yeah, for sure.
All right, so because we have some extra time, I want and rules sharking has been in the news. I wanted to ask your opinion on something.
Let's hear it.
So we are playing in the first ever. Suppose we are playing in the first ever sealed Disney Lorcana challenge.
Hmm.
You are my opponent,
Okay.
and I have Bruno Madrigal, the 4-cost 3/3 quest for 1 evasive with the ability name a card, then reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a named card, put that card into your hand and gain 3 lore. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck.
Okay.
And I name Penny,
Penny.
and then I flip this card,
Penny the orphan.
Penny the Orphan.
Okay.
What do you do?
This is a DLC.
Yes.
Um,
But shorthanding is acceptable.
shorthanding is acceptable. So the crux of this is that there is another card whose name is just Penny, and
Correct.
this card
Penny
is Penny the
Bolt's
orphan.
person.
Um, so I typically when I say typically, I always play by what my opponent intended. Um, I think I think on the first trigger, I'd say, okay, go ahead and do whatever the success condition is on Bruno. I don't know what that is. But
I think you just draw a card and gain 3
and
lore.
gain some lore. Okay.
Yes. If it's a named card, put that card into your hand and gain 3 lore.
I would let them put the card into their hand and say, next time, please please indicate if you intend to hit Penny the Orphan. Because I don't know if they even know that another Penny exists,
Um,
right?
so that's what I wanted to. So the funny thing is, like, we both come from Magic, right?
Yes,
And you don't actually have to know the name of the card. You just have to be able to describe it.
correct.
What if what if your opponent? What if I'm like, I'm gonna name Penny the small redheaded girl holding an animal.
Um,
That's both of them.
that's both of them. That quest for two, the one that quests for two.
Yeah, and has a combined 3 stats.
Um, I hope to never find myself in this situation. If you know if my opponent has both, they opened both pennies in their one pack. We're playing a multi-pack sealed DLC where you can open Bruno and both pennies. If they
These can
hit,
be in the same pack.
those can be in the same pack. Yep. If they hit the first penny, they hit the Amber Steel penny with Bruno, and then they say penny again and hit the Orphan penny. I will let them you know, put the card in their hand and gain their 3 lore and say, okay, next time you activate Bruno saying Penny, please just clarify which one you intend.
What if the first time they name Penny and reveal Penny the orphan, and you're like, okay, that's fine, and then they activated the next turn and reveal, they say Penny again and reveal this Penny.
If they say, so I said earlier, the first time that they say Penny and hit Penny the Orphan, I'm asking them to clarify, for future occurrences. Um, if the next game they just say Penny and hit Penny the Orphan, remind them, hey, I asked you to clarify there are two different pennies in your deck that you showed me. Please, sorry, you don't get the hit. You know, does that make me a rules shark? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's complicated.
It's
For
complicated,
me,
but
if the roles were reversed and I was your opponent,
uh-huh.
um, I'm gonna forget in 15 minutes that these are two different characters, and so feel free to name Penny and collect your lore against me in the sealed
Every time.
DLC, because
Yeah.
I will forget.
Yeah. The only reason, yeah, like the only reason that I would, ask them to clarify is because I'm very well aware that another penny exists because she's a card that I like a lot and I want to try in my decks. But if you're just like your average Lorcana player and they Bruno and hit penny, like you're probably gonna be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully Ravensburger has this solved by the time they have sealed DLCs. So
Yeah,
um,
hopefully, we won't have to find ourselves in a situation where, you activate your Bruno, you name Penny, you hit Penny the Orphan, and your opponent, points a finger very quickly. They go, that no, hold on a minute. That right there is Penny the Orphan. You
yeah,
named Penny Bolt's person.
yeah.
That's a miscondition for you.
All
Uh,
right. Uh,
you know where Penny the Orphan is from?
I've never. I thought they were the same character, and I brought it on for this segment originally because I was confused how Maleficent could both be a sorceress and a dragon, but Penny can't be Bolt's dog and an orphan. I thought they were the same character.
They're not. Penny, Bolt's person, very obviously is from the movie Bolt.
Yes.
Um, she's not an orphan. She has a mother. I don't know if we ever see the father, so I think
You
but
can
she's
have
not
parents and
an
be an
orphan.
orphan, right?
Um, well, her mother is around. Her mother is involved in her movie career, her TV career. Um, Penny the orphan is from The Rescuers, of which Madame Medusa is the villain.
Ah, for the Chippendale?
No, Bianca and Bernard are the
Bianca and
rescuers.
Bernard.
Yeah, they're part of an organization that helps children in distress.
Gotcha.
So,
All right.
I'm waiting for The Rescuers Down Under, which is the sequel movie to The Rescuers, which in my opinion is the far superior film.
Gotcha. All right. That's all I had for this week. Any
You
final
didn't,
thoughts?
did you want to talk about any decks you're excited to play?
Yeah. I'm excited to try the Kiwi deck. I'm excited to try red purple, and green steel might be a competitive deck that doesn't involve sharks or Tamatoas.
Yeah, I really don't want to find myself wanting to play a Tamatoa or a Shark deck because
Yeah, as a owner of two sharks and zero Tamatoas, it's going to be very expensive to acquire the
yeah,
remaining
that's two more of
cards.
those cards than I own. I'm gonna I'm gonna try to buy four pennies and update Amber Steel aggro. So I have all of the Amber and Steel cards. I have a
Yeah.
lot of the red and purple cards too.
Yeah, I
And
hope red purple will survive. It doesn't seem like it in the face of the BS decks that are floating around.
no,
The dimes on turn 5 and 6 are quite oppressive.
yeah, the blue steel high roll is really scary. That might be, you know, however consistent they can make it so that they are putting uh Ariel and Dime into play on turn 5.
Yeah.
Might dictate how much fun the format is. Um, you know, if it's something akin to, you know, the old Steel Song high rolls where okay, you know, they just had everything and you lose those games, but that's like you know, 2% of the games that they play. But if
Yeah.
you know, but if we're facing down, you know, Crab, Ariel, Dime, turn 5, you know, 30% of the time, I think that's gonna make for
Yeah, I
some
definitely want to
problematic.
be aggressive with a sprinkle of disruption, which
Yeah.
is usually the steel decks.
Yeah, that's what the steel decks are. You know, Gantu doesn't even interact with Tamatoa putting Diamond for free because free overrides any tax in this game.
Yeah.
Um,
Not any text.
any tax is what I
Oh
said.
yeah, tax.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah. Still
um,
can't put Mirabelle into play
still
for
can't put
free.
Mirabelle into play. Uh, oh, that is a deck I'm excited to play. In the beginning of set 5, I was testing a zero to hero Clarabelle deck that had 4 Mirabelles in it, and I would when the deck popped off, like you could just put Mirabelles into play and you get to quest with her the next turn, and it was impossible to lose those games, but it was so inconsistent. But with Tramp, you add a ton of consistency and can filter out all of your bad cards.
Interesting. There we go. Now we're cooking.
Yeah, I'm gonna draft a deck that has 4 Mirabelles in it and see if it does anything.
Would you say your biggest Lorcana achievement is top 32ing the North American Continentals or questing with Mirabelle?
Um, I think there are fewer competitive players who have quested with Mirabelle than there are who have top 32'd a continental
I agree.
championships. So, you know, I didn't get any recognition or prizes for questing with Mirabelle, but I think that's probably the rarer thing among you know competitive players.
Yep. All
So,
right. Anything else? Shout outs,
um,
final words. Thanks.
shout outs again to Josh for hosting us and you know making it so we didn't have to figure out how to do this ourselves. Um,
Yes. For,
and
there is a third person on this call, Josh, because like I said, we couldn't figure out how to record ourselves after 40
yeah,
minutes. We had to call in the backup.
yeah, Josh is just overseeing to make sure we don't say anything that he can't upload to his YouTube channel
Yep. Over under 35 viewers for this
for this
episode.
video. Um, over.
Over. Nice. I
I
think
hope.
it's over 2 because I'm going to send it to my parents. That's at
All
least
right.
2.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna send it to my coworkers and say like and subscribe.
There you go. To Josh's channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is hopefully we'll just have an SLTC YouTube channel that will be all of the executive produced SLTC content.
Yeah. I think that is the eventual plan. You know, as we do these weekly podcasts and now a spin-off discussion
Yeah.
cast. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a
All right.
bright future.
Any upcoming events for you?
Um, I may go to the World Class Cards 10K, 5K weekend at the end of March.
Nice.
Um, but it is a 2.5 hour drive for me, and I might just go up for one the morning of. But if there's anybody who's in the area or will be in the area who's interested in carpooling, that would make the drive a lot more bearable.
Nice.
So, what about you?
So LGS release weekend, I have probably the most competitive sealed event that one could ask for.
Okay,
Potentially Kurt, Rob, Justin, friend of the show, Scott, Funny JK. They all might be there for that. Um,
okay, those are all great Lorcana players.
yeah. So 3 rounds, 2 boosties per win.
Okay,
Um,
you are gonna.
Probably the only boosties of this episode of this set that I will open. So a max 12 for me. Hoping for a open 3 peats in my sealed pool and then just beat down with those. That's the plan.
Yeah, that would be hard to lose if you had three peats in your sealed pool.
Yeah, and then the weekend after that, I'm playing in 3K. So the weekend in
Okay,
between LGS release and big box release, uh, and they will allow 4 proxies. Um,
4 proxies. Oh, that means you can play crabs without spending $200.
I could play crabs, but
But
if you proxy, you are required to double sleeve your deck.
interesting.
Um,
I would not play proxies.
yeah, that's the way I feel too.
I hate double sleeving.
Yeah, I just went through the effort of undouble sleeving my entire collection. I'm not going to go back and do it again. Uh,
On double sleeving, like if I when I double sleeve a deck, like the cards are just in the in those sleeves like forever.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm with you there.
I'm I'm
Then they
I'm
don't
done
fit in
with
the
that
deck
life.
box, double sleeved.
No, the Bastion 50 plus is a unforgiving mistress, but
Yep.
it fits in a fanny pack.
Yeah, you can't play double sleeve cards, and you can't play more than 60 cards, or else it doesn't it doesn't fit in the deck
Nope,
box.
doesn't fit in the deck box. And then the deck, like the and next size up, doesn't fit in the fanny pack. Like then
Yeah,
you have to
yeah.
carry it
Game
back.
Genic, we're looking for sponsors. If you're, we're both Bastion enjoyers.
Yes, absolutely. We are leaning into the fanny pack gaming life, and
Yeah.
it's pretty glorious.
All right. It was
All right,
fun.
Dave. Yeah,
Talk to you later.
have a good evening.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. How do I end it? Oh, we just left.